There are some dark clouds gathering over the third season of Euphoria. Yesterday, while scrolling the internet, I found multiple articles that speak about some report that came out that basically talks about the conflict between the director Sam Levinson and the main actress and also executive producer of that show, Zendaya. Whether you liked Euphoria or not, you have to agree that it was a cultural phenomenon of sorts. Everybody was basically absolutely crazy about the aesthetics of a show, recreating makeup styles. The world was literally flooded with glitter, and in a certain way it kind of contributed to the freedom of expression in makeup and fashion in general, because it kind of introduced this artistic, carefree way of doing makeup that kind of revolutionized the makeup scene at the time, and I feel like it's still really popular. I recently went to a music festival and a lot of girls were rocking Euphoria style makeup. I don't know if it's just me, but I have noticed that ever since Euphoria launched, and because it was such a hype, people started to be a bit more brave with their fashion sense. It seems to me nowadays when I pass people on the street, literally it's just so lovely and colorful, and I feel like Euphoria had a huge effect. I'm not saying it was like the sole factor in this, but I feel like it was a big contributor to this carefree sense of fashion that we experience nowadays. I personally really like Euphoria, especially season 1. Season 2 was a bit disappointing to me, if I'm honest with you, but the first season I was really a fan of, and also got obsessed with glittery things afterwards, as half of the population at that time. I'm also a big fan of filmography and cinematography, so for me, Euphoria was obviously a feast for my eyes. It was really interesting the way it was recorded and the colors, that palette that was used, and all of these lights and shadows and shimmer and glitter. It was just all very, very alluring. But despite its popularity, it also had its share of controversies, mostly connected with unnecessary nudity and generally the way drugs were portrayed in the series. A lot of people said the drugs were glorified. I didn't really feel that way, to be honest with you. I feel like the show really managed to portray this dual side of drugs, that on one hand it's all, colorful and glittery and everything, and on the other hand it's really, dirty and degrading. And the series showed Drew going through the notions of being really happy on these drugs and then being kind of like a wreck, which I feel was kind of a fair portrayal, because that's generally how drugs are. People don't get addicted to the damage they cause, they get addicted to all the glitter, right? Then the damage comes after, and they have a very heavy wake-up call. But generally, I don't agree with that. When it comes to excessive nudity, I was a bit torn on the subject, because the show was generally intending to be quite realistic, so I feel that that was a part of that realism, at least at first. But then the whole idol thing came out, and now I just kind of view it through a slightly different lens, if I'm honest with you, but I digress. Seeing how popular the season 1 of Euphoria was, you would think that season 2 would happen almost immediately. Unfortunately, there was a certain pandemic event that happened that basically caused delays. And season 2 came out 2.5 years after the first season commenced. Season 2 was a bit disappointing to me, especially when it comes to the storyline. I feel there was a lot of plots that were unresolved, and I wasn't a huge fan of the whole Lexi play thing. I thought it was just like a weird recap type of thing from season 1 that wasn't really necessary. I have my fair share of criticism when it comes to this season 2, but I'm not gonna go over it in this video because it's gonna take too long. But despite its flaws, the season really managed to get people obsessed with Euphoria again. So now we have a proven track record. We have a season 1 that is a major success. We have a season 2 that is equally as successful. The hype is real. Everybody is awaiting season 3. It's 2022 and we are hungry for more. And then The Idol gets announced. So The Idol was essentially announced in a previous year, in 2021, but it was meant to be a project that The Weeknd was meant to co-write, executive produce, and also co-star in. Sam Levinson wasn't really meant to be that much involved in the project, but because of his friendship with The Weeknd that evolved during the Euphoria filming, because he was majorly responsible for the music in Euphoria, before we knew it, we saw Sam Levinson stepping in and basically replacing the female director who was meant to direct the series, and starting directing The Idol instead. And this is where Euphoria Season 3 was basically put on a back burner. And this was the thing that Zendaya, as the executive producer of Euphoria, was very much unhappy with. And she expressed that unhappiness on multiple occasions, involving a meeting that she called with the HBO bosses Casey Bloys and Francesca Orsi to basically ask why was he allowed to get involved with the project in the first place when Euphoria was meant to be in works, basically. Unfortunately, it didn't lead to any sort of resolution, and Sam Levinson was allowed to continue working on The Idol. I don't know why HBO prioritized The Idol over Euphoria, but I have my own theory. I feel one of it was basically launching Weeknd's career as an actor and basically banking on his popularity, but the other one was also the fact that there was a very popular trial happening around that time that was gathering absolutely enormous amounts of attention, and that was the trial of Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. And the person who got casted as the main character of The Idol was Johnny Depp's daughter, Lily Rose Depp. And I have a sneaky suspicion HBO kind of wanted to bank on the fact that everybody was interested in Johnny Depp's daughter because of that trial. First of all, I haven't watched the show, so I'm not gonna be judging it in this video because I haven't personally seen it, so it feels a bit disingenuous of me to basically talk about it, but I'm just gonna talk about the backlash that this show caused. I believe that they thought the show will be a massive hit, but unfortunately, it was not. This show, I mean, to say it was controversial would be an understatement. It literally blew up the internet. Everybody was talking about it, everybody was criticizing it. It has been called a torture porn. It's been discussed in multiple newspapers. There was an expose done by the Rolling Stone that alleged that The Idol had gone disturbingly off the rails. Everybody was unanimous in their criticism of The Idol. What happened was basically that Sam Levinson, instead of taking to heart the criticism associated with Euphoria, especially when it comes to the excessive nudity scenes, he decided to actually turn it up to 11. And it backfired in his face. And now he was in the position where fans were basically turning away from him, calling him a creep and all sorts of things. And apparently Zendaya and potentially some other cast members were basically afraid that it's gonna affect their image. The articles also talk about the once close and now strained relationship between Sam Levinson and Zendaya. Apparently, because of his personal experiences as a recovering drug addict, he was very deeply invested in Rue's character and he implanted a lot of his own experiences into this character. And this led to the close relationship between himself and the actress who was portraying that role. She was apparently spending a lot of time with him and had a lot of involvement in creative process of Euphoria. They also did a side project together and essentially they were very, very close. The articles call them thick as thieves. It's basically said that they were best buddies. There were plans in place for Zendaya to direct some of the third season of Euphoria, so she was basically shadowing Sam on the set while he was directing the second season. And their relationship became distant because she started to distance herself from the director after the Idol controversy. Apparently there was even a meeting called by HBO bosses between Zendaya and Sam just to basically try to reconcile them so they can put aside their differences and work on season 3 of Euphoria together. Unfortunately, it turns out that apparently this meeting was not that successful and the issues weren't resolved. Then there are also issues with the direction of the show itself. Sam proposed that Rue is to be a private detective, which is now fully recovered from drugs in the third season. Zendaya agreed with the recovery part, but she didn't want Rue to become a private investigator. She preferred her to be a surrogate mother. Both of these ideas were rejected by HBO, and apparently Sam Levinson is now rewriting the whole third season of Euphoria as we speak. There were other unfortunate factors that contributed to the mess of the third season of Euphoria. First was unexpected and tragic death of Angus Cloud that was followed by equally unexpected and tragic death of Kevin Turan, who was the original co-producer of the show. and that was the person who actually started a company called Little Lamp Production Company with Lewinson that basically was a stable house for Euphoria. And he was unexpectedly cut off from the company by Lewinson earlier that year. We don't quite know the root of their conflict, but because of it, Sam Lewinson was basically barred from attending Turin's funeral, and he even went as far as host his own reception to honor Turin's death. So now the vacant position of Turin in Euphoria project needed to be filled, and the person chosen for this role was Ashley Lewinson, Sam Lewinson's wife, which caused further issues with the cast. Zendaya, most notably, was apparently very unhappy and has told HBO executives that she doesn't want Ashley Lewinson to be the only executive producer on season 3. And apparently she was not the only person who felt that way. So now everything is kind of hanging in the air, with Sam Lewinson rewriting the third season, with cast members being unhappy with the direction of the show, and with some meetings being held to basically try to dissolve the situation and push the story forward. As we speak, Euphoria is still happening. The season 3 is predicted to be released in 2025, but because the aforementioned reasons and controversies, I believe we have a huge reason to believe that there potentially will be further delays or even cancellation of the show altogether if they don't manage to come to terms with each other. All the cast of Euphoria is allowed to participate in side projects, and I think it is also fair to mention that there are also sources in this article that blame the whole delay situation on Zendaya, especially when it comes to her involvement in other movies and projects. And basically there is this source that is saying that they are trying to pin it on Sam when in fact it's Zendaya that caused these delays. I don't know, I'm not an insider in the story. I'm just sort of this spectator that is dipping my toes in the drama just to share it with y'all. I hope that we will see the third season of Euphoria. I would really want to see some resolution when it comes to certain arcs. And I really want to find out what happened with that freaking drug dealing lady that was after Rue, because, I mean, we didn't get any answers. I don't know if anything will happen with it in season 3. I've heard there will be a time jump, so maybe it will be sort of retrospectively mentioned how it all unfolded, but I feel it was a strange point to be introduced in the first place if you didn't want to resolve it, but that's a material for a whole another critic video when it comes to the second season of Euphoria. But for now, thank you so much for tuning in. I wish you a very lovely week and I'll speak to you later. Bye!